Nurture, to care for and encourage the growth or development of something. As a kid, I was always creative. From drawing and painting on every surface available, to developing epic storylines for my Polly Pockets, to sculpting masterpieces with Play-Doh and jamming out on our digital piano. Nurturing my creativity was never a task, it was simply a part of my daily life. Most of us were pretty creative as kids, but as all things in life seem to do, creativity got a lot more complicated as we grew up. We began to fear the inevitable failures that come with creating. We began to care a little bit too much about what other people thought and let our own thoughts and intuitions fade into the background. We began to nurture other things in life like love and adventures and our careers, which are wonderful things and we should prioritize them. But if we aren't careful, it's very, very easy to stop nurturing our creativity. And that's been the reality for me over the last few years. Even as I've transitioned to becoming a full-time artist, I haven't been very intentional about nurturing my own creativity. I know that sounds kind of contradictory, but it does happen. It happens for both professional and hobby artists alike. Somewhere along the way, I stopped loving the creative practice. It simply became work for me. I had lost the childlike wonder and passion that I used to have for it. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and guess that you're a creative person too. I mean, you clicked on this video, so obviously you're at least curious about the creative practice. And if you're watching this, chances are you've fallen out of love with the creative practice too. Or maybe you're simply looking to go deeper with your creative practice. Whatever the reason, you're ready to nurture your creative practice because creative people need to create. Imagine like a big ball of energy inside you. That's your creativity. And like a kid on a sugar high, that energy needs an outlet. Even when the excitement for it is gone, the creativity itself hasn't gone away. It just needs to be woken back up. It needs to be nurtured. So at the end of 2023, I was coming off of my 20 illustrations challenge, and I was feeling a little bit lost. That challenge was supposed to help me find my style and create a really fun portfolio of artwork. And it did. I made a lot of pieces I really loved and discovered how I like to create and what I like to create. But there was still something missing. I didn't feel fully in touch with my creativity. I didn't feel like I really loved the creative practice like I once had. So I started a new project. And what started as a random,
hey, let's do this on a whim because it sounds kind of fun and what do we have to lose,
has actually grown into something a lot bigger. I think it's one of the things I'm most proud of making because it's something I really believe is going to help a lot of people. I was so down about my own creative practice, and I wondered if anyone else was feeling like I was. So I did one of those little question box thingies on Instagram and asked what y'all were dealing with. To my surprise, we were all kind of in the same boat. Maybe we weren't necessarily struggling with the exact same problem, but we were all struggling with our creativity, and a lot of our problems did sort of align. Our problems weren't unique to us, they were actually fairly common. From burnout to lack of fundamental skills to hating our art styles, none of us seemed to know what to do next. So I began to write a workbook to help myself and other creatives nurture our creative practices. Here's how it works. Part 1, identifying the biggest problem you're facing in your art practice. I did a lot of research and discovered the 7 main problems artists were facing. Struggling to find your style, fear of failure, dealing with burnout, feeling like your fundamental skills aren't capable of creating the art you want to make, perfectionism, not having enough time to create, and not liking the art style you have. And these problems can be broken down into 2 categories, creative and technical. Creativity and technical skills are both equally a part of the creative practice, but knowing which one you're really struggling with is half the battle. By identifying if our problem is technical or creative and what that specific problem is, we're so much better equipped to move forward in nurturing our creative practice. Part 1 also dishes out a few uncomfortable truths I think we all need to hear. Part 2, preparing your workspace and headspace. The goal of nurturing is to take care of and grow what you do have, not to long for what you don't have. This workbook is designed to use the supplies you already have available to you and to better understand the mind you're making with. We all have wildly different headspaces, and that really does impact how we create art as individuals. Part 3, setting your intention. The reality is, there's more to life than art, and there's more to you than being an artist. We have a million other things going on in our lives besides art, so we need to set an intention for nurturing our creative practice that we can actually stick with. So this section helps you write out an intention to deal with your specific problem with the materials available to you, the time you have, etc. Maybe you're dealing with a chronic illness and need a little bit of flexibility. Maybe you have ADHD and need to set an intention with a little bit more structure. Maybe you have a family to take care of and can only devote a few minutes to nurturing your creative practice every other day. Whatever your unique circumstances, this section is going to help you set a clear and achievable intention. And part 4, actually doing the work. So I've gone through the workbook myself, and this is by far the hardest part. You can do all the research, identify your problems, set up a good workspace, and write out the greatest intention, but at the end of the day, it's about truly committing to doing it. Only you can nurture your creative practice. No one else can do it for you. But the workbook doesn't end there. One of my favorite sections is the journaling pages. There are pages for each day you created something, each week, and finally for the end of your nurture intention. Now, I'm not typically a journaler. I never seem to think I have enough time for it, but honestly, the journal prompts helped me so much. Even if I only had like 5 minutes to journal, I felt like I could really take stock of what I'd created, what my mindset was while I was creating, and how I was improving. On the days art went well, I could record my excitement and the joy over what I'd made. And on the days that were kind of crappy, I could just rant and get out the negative feelings. Throughout the process, I feel like I gained a much better understanding of the creative practice as a whole. It's not just about the good days and the warm fuzzy feelings. It's a lot of hard work and making mistakes and learning from them. I learned that it's okay to feel frustrated with my artwork and to not love everything that I make. But even the things I don't like are still a big part of my creative practice. The failures teach me how to be a better artist, and that's incredibly important. I know not everyone's into journaling, but the prompts are designed to where you can just think through them even if you don't feel like writing anything down. It's not about having page after page of notes written down at the end. It's about connecting with your creativity on a deeper level and truly understanding it. The workbook also has a list of resources if you're nurturing your technical skills. I've included some of my favorite books, classes, videos, all the things. But I think my favorite part of the Nurture Workbook is the Nurture group that comes with it.
Artists are introverts.
It's a pretty common stereotype, but is it actually true? Whether your art is a hobby or your profession, you probably spend most of your time creating alone. The creative practice is somewhat private. It's a form of self-expression, so it does make sense that we'd like to do it in our own time and in a place we're most comfortable away from prying eyes. But are we actually happy with that? Do we create alone because we want to, or because we're afraid to create with someone else? I'd like to argue that creatives need a community. Whether you're drawing or painting in person with someone over FaceTime, whether you're sharing your portfolios over coffee or a Zoom call, it's crucial for artists to share their art with others, for creativity to be a communal event. Yes, it's absolutely great to have creative sessions to yourself too, but there's a certain amount of creativity that's meant to be shared. These are my 5 big reasons why I believe community really matters for artists. Number 1, community is encouragement. We all need to be encouraged. We all need to have someone to talk to when we're having a bad art day. When your perspective drawings aren't going well, you need someone to remind you that practice makes progress. Someone who pulls out your older drawings as proof that you are improving. Number 2, community is accountability. When you're working with a group, you want to make a contribution. You want to keep up with the crowd. Now, I don't mean that you need to work at the same pace as anyone else, simply that you want to be growing along with them. A community holds you accountable to the goals you set. They remind you that you're in this for the long game, even when it's hard. Number 3, community is feedback. While it's important for us to learn how to critique our own work, it's also extremely helpful to seek feedback from someone else. When your new painting just feels off somehow, other artists might have the eye to see the error as well as the knowledge to help you fix it. There's no shame in asking for help. Number 4, community is inspiration. It is incredibly hard not to be inspired when you're around other artists. Seeing an array of different styles, mediums, and subjects is absolutely amazing. So while I was in high school, I had the opportunity to attend art camp for a couple of summers, and it was an unbeatable experience. Not only was I greatly inspired by the other kids in the visual arts studio, but I also found inspiration in the artists of the other studios, like creative writing and theater and dance. When artists come together to share their many skills and gifts, inspiration flows like a geyser. And number 5, community is fun. Whether or not you're truly an introvert, we all want to be a part of something. Even the shyest of people need personal connection. A community makes life fun. It makes difficult things more manageable, it makes achievements more enjoyable, and it makes the mundane more magical. Community is really a chance to be a part of something bigger than yourself. All this to say, because I believe community is so important for nurturing your creative practice, I decided to start a Discord group where we can share our intentions, our progress, our wins and failures, ask for feedback, and simply grow together as creatives. Everyone who downloads the workbook gets a link to join the Discord group. The ones who had early access to the workbook earlier this year have grown into such an incredible little community, and I can honestly say it's one of my favorite online spaces. Anywho, I'm so excited to share that the Nurture Workbook is finally available to download in my shop. It's on sale for a short time and will be going up in a couple of weeks, but I wanted my YouTube fam to have a little bit of a first go at it. This has been such a passion project of mine, and I'm really excited to finally share it with you guys. I really do believe it's going to help a lot of people. I know it helped me. If you want to download a free sample of it, there's a link down below. That way you can kind of see if it's a good fit for you before buying the whole thing. I also want to say a huge thank you to Kelsey Rodriguez for giving me some fantastic advice on this workbook and for all of her encouragement. We had a really great chat about all this over on her channel a couple months ago. Before we say our goodbyes, I want to chat just a little bit about the painting. Sui, a lovely Korean artist and paint maker, sent me a box of her gorgeous paints, and I was so excited to try them out. This painting is actually based on a sketch from a few sketchbooks ago that I've always really loved and never got around to painting. I finally made time for it recently, sketched it in a sketchbook, painted it, and absolutely hated it. This was not one of those times where I came back to it a few days later and was like,
it's really not that bad. I actually kind of like this.
No. I came back a few days later and went,
I hate it even more.
I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty upset about this for a few weeks because I felt like I just didn't do the idea justice. But then I realized there was absolutely nothing stopping me from just starting again. One of those little moments of growth in my practice of going,
I messed up the first time, here's what I learned from that, now let's give it another go.
I went a totally different direction with the color palette the second time around and ended up with something I'm really happy with. I also had a ton of fun painting, which is the most important part. I can clearly remember one point painting her hair where I was like,
yes, that was the finishing stroke. Under no circumstances should you touch the hair again.
Because all too often, I like how something looks, and then I tweak it just a little bit, and it turns into an absolute dumpster fire. But I was determined not to do that here. I had a really, really great time painting in my sketchbook. It was very relaxing, very low-key. I also feel like slowly but surely my shape design is improving when painting characters, and my skin tones are becoming a little bit more lifelike. I'm so far from an expert still, but I'm really excited to see my skills improve little by little. So I've made a sticker of this gal and her little seahorse pal. Gotta love a good rhyme. Anyways, it's now available in my shop in honor of Mermaid. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed chatting more about the Nurture Workbook and how it came to be. If you've been struggling with your creative practice, I hope you'll give it a try. Huge thank you to the Cozy Club and Curious Creatives over on Patreon for helping support my art journey. Y'all are absolutely fantastic. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye guys!